Okay. I remember Bill Jastrom, who was my pastor at 12 Foursquare for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, whatever it was.
Hey, Bill.
He did a series years and years ago, which was called The Human Spirit.
I remember that. Yep.
And he started just with this concept that I don't think really I had ever really thought about, is we talked plenty about the Holy Spirit, but the idea that there is a human spirit, it was kind of obvious, but I just never thought about it.
I remember that.
And so he went on, I don't know, for several Sundays about this idea and the ways in which our spirit interacts with God, the ways in which our spirit can get wounded. Like there's this whole context about that our spirit is a different thing from our soul.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be careful that I don't kind of do any counseling stuff because I'll get probably in trouble. But roughly speaking, the idea that there are some things that happen to us that wound our souls, and there are tools and techniques and stuff that are meaningful and helpful in that space. But there are other things that wound our spirit, and you need a different kind of work for that. You need a different kind of and they're not at all mutually exclusive. In fact, that's, I think, what one of the big points that Eldridge is trying to make is that these are actually totally on the same board.
Yeah.
And just to kind of finish the loop, there's also obviously our physical
Right.
bodies, right, who are also wounded in different ways, but we're very comfortable with the idea that whatever, I go to a dentist when I have a cavity, which is not the same as a counselor when I have insomnia or something. It's the idea that these are different things, but the spirit is also part of that, and they're all part of the same holistic healing.
Yeah, and I like that approach because, especially in our modern day Western world, we're so stuck on like this hammer. And this is like, you're going to go whack everything with that hammer.
Everything's a nail.
and I think the world is waking up a little bit to that there's some other ideas out there. We lived in China for a while, and there's these, they don't know why that acupuncture works, but they've known that for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it does, it works. I remember that the Spirit of Man talks that Bill did. One of it was our spirit's effect on other people's spirits.
Right.
It's just,
Right.
I love this stuff. So I'm really glad that they have been talking about this, with Ransom Heart's been talking about this. My sister Sabrina is a wonderful counselor, and she's exploring that. Like, yeah, talking works. Talking helps. I love the story about Peter when after he denies Jesus 3 times, Jesus goes to counseling. It's like, let's talk this out, buddy.
Yeah.
Do you love me? Yes, I do, Jesus. Do you love me? Come on, Jesus. Yes, I do.
Get off my back already.
3 times he goes in there, and I love stories like that. And we don't know what happened with Paul for 16 years.
The thorn in his flesh, is that what you're talking about? Or just when he kind of...
yeah, when he was with Jesus for all that time in the desert. So there's so much more to be said about this. One story that I thought was funny that they came up with this topic recently was, we were down at Bethel. I mean, this is not our culture. I would say our more of our culture in Christianity is Ransom Heart. I mean, that's
kind of like our personal
people, whatever, our people,
group, whatever.
And so I love Bethel. I love the music. I love Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin, all the different teachers down there. But when you go there, there's a lot of language. There's just
their own culture.
Different nuances, things they do that are like, what's that? And at first it freaked me out. I remember talking to Chris about this, and he's like, it's just cultural stuff. Don't let it bother you. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful.
I remember it's pretty common, I think, in Bethel to say, like, they don't say the Holy Spirit, they just say Holy Spirit.
Right.
And it's a little tiny thing, right? It's the most minuscule thing, but it catches your ear if that's not how you talk about it.
And I've tried to do it, and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And I know, like, I really naturally call God Papa. Like, it just pops out.
Right.
But there's people who are like, that, I don't know what to do with that.
That happened the other day. You and I were in a meeting, and you said Papa, and they said, okay, what do you mean by that?
Right. What do you mean by that?
And I thought it was so funny, but to them, they had never heard that.
They'd never heard it. And so this is the similar thing. I think that a big part of what Eldridge was talking about is that there's this culture around inner healing. There's this culture around counseling, and they are actually friends.
Yeah.
But sometimes we just need to say it out loud.
Sure.
Right?
Cool. So we hope you enjoy that.